Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 41, overall 536 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme, aka CDP, sent you, or you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969, and yours truly has been a customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet for the past 25 years. I hope everyone's doing well on this Monday, May 12th, 2025, a beautiful sunny summer type day here in Southern Ontario, 23 Celsius, 76 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm looking forward to my guest today. I met him on TikTok, and this is his first appearance, and we're going to bring him on. His name is Shapiro. He's a former Toronto Police Services officer for nearly 25 years, and now the host of his own TikTok show called Traffic Cop Talk Show, or Ask a Traffic Cop Show. And he's very active on social media, and as well as a media personality, and makes a lot of appearances on radio stations as well. So we're going to talk to Sean Shapiro, and we're going to bring him on right now.
Hey, how you
Good
doing?
afternoon, Sean. Good. How are you doing?
No complaints here. A little chilly in my basement, but we're doing all right.
But it's nice outside here today. It's 23, 76 degrees.
Yes, I'm looking forward to braving the elements and seeing sunshine for the first time today.
The only negative thing about May I'm not a big fan of is I have seasonal allergies, and unfortunately May is one of the worst months for pollen and stuff like that from the trees.
Yes, you got to be armed with Kleenex wherever you go.
How was your weekend, Sean?
No complaints. It's always great to have time off with family and focus on them before getting back to the grind of doing all the things I do in my quasi-retired new life after the badge.
Yeah, I don't like to use the word retirement because I find a lot of people I talk to, they still keep very active even when they do leave their long-term jobs.
Well, after a career in policing, and I was with the police service from 2000 to 2024, almost 2025, and I've done a lot of things with them, and I'm still very active and participating with my my friends and Blue family there. But I didn't leave to watch grass grow. I left to go do other things and be very involved with my family, but also start a business and continue the education that I do or started doing as a police officer, but now doing it as a former police officer.
How much has social media and the internet changed policing over the decades?
Oh, you know what? It's a slow transition, quite honestly, because policing is slow to move and adapt when it comes to these things. And policing, when I got involved, and we weren't even allowed to have social media. We weren't allowed, to have access to email. That was something that only certain officers were issued access to. And now every officer has access to email, both auxiliaries, court officers, like every member. And every police officer is issued a cell phone so that they can communicate wherever they are. It's really, really changed. And it's sort of that Gen X thing where I got to see, the bringing in of cell phone technology to the world when we, got out of reel-to-reels, got into from 8-tracks and got into, cassette tapes and CDs. Like, it's all this stuff has happened during my career, and it's been pretty awesome. But now with social media and engaged officers communicating directly with the public from their phone in their hands, it's truly making policing accessible to all.
It can be a really good tool if it's used the right way. And you were on the air this morning. I'm sorry I missed your show, but what were you guys talking about today on your TikTok Ask a Traffic Cop show?
So Ask a Traffic Cop goes live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. and Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Trying to get in front of everyone who needs to access information, because the goal of the show is to take live questions and answer them live to help people understand the Highway Traffic Act and the rules of the road. But today we talked about everything from drones, drone law, to discussing things about passing. And one caller, our viewer, was really adamant about how good the driving is in Europe compared to how bad the driving is here in Southern Ontario.
I wanted to ask you that too. Do you find with having cell phones and all these vehicles loaded with all this technology, do you find distractive driving is even more now than even 5 years ago?
Oh, for sure. It's not only is it more technology and more distraction, but it is, how do I say this nicely? We're not good at controlling our impulses, I think. And it's one thing to have a cell phone, but and people used to use the phone while they were driving. When they first came out, you'd see people driving with the Motorola 8000 brick to their ear, but they were still driving. And now that it's illegal, people are hiding it. They're still doing it, but they're hiding it. And I think that adds another layer of complexity to it. So people are doing it knowing that it's illegal. They're watching TV. They're streaming Netflix while they're driving. Like it's a whole lot of not good going on. And it's so commonplace and so socially acceptable to do it that really the only thing that people are worried about is getting caught.
Sean, since you're on TikTok too, I've seen in the past, I don't know if TikTok's banned it, people live streaming while they're driving.
So if the camera's pointed at them, but the screen isn't, it's not illegal. They can actually have their phone or a camera pointed at them while they're driving. And as long as they're focused on driving, it's no big deal. The problem is that they're reading comments off the screen, that they're swiping through and engaging with comments and banning people. That's use of a phone, and that is strictly prohibited. So that's a $615 fine under the Highway Traffic Act here in Ontario. And when you get convicted, you also get a 3-day suspension on your first conviction. And 3 demerit points too. But I think it has to be increased. I think like when they first came out, it was $125, no points, and I think it went to $175. And possibly added points at that point. Now we're $615, and people are doing it just as much as they've ever done it. So maybe we need to start impounding cars and treat it like stunt driving.
I want to get your opinion on this, Sean. Right now, between drinking and driving and distracting driving, do you find distracting driving is just right up there with impaired driving?
100%. Impaired driving, socially unacceptable. Most of the young people aren't doing it. And there are people who still do it. It's not that it's gone away. It's still a major problem. But the number of people who will get behind the wheel of a motor vehicle while impaired by drugs or alcohol is lower than those who have a cell phone in their hand and think it's okay to text and drive or surf and drive or whatever they're doing. Those devices need to be put in the bag, put in the trunk, out of your hands and out of your option field. Because I say option field. If you hear the ding dong of your alert that somebody sent you a message, the fear of missing out, that FOMO, drives most people to violation, where they're willing to go look at it because they can't restrain themselves. They have to know.
And you know this well as Sean too, is it's hard enough driving it is nowadays with the amount of cars and vehicles on the road, let alone being distracted by your phone or live streaming or whatever and stuff like that.
People need to focus at the very basic, function of their role as a driver, getting to where they're going safely. And that means not texting and not, fiddling with the radio and not, playing with a dog in your lap. Like you really just need to be driving. And we are so hyper stimulated all the time. We're used to always having some level of entertainment that we can't go without for an hour. It's actually really healthy to unplug and just go for a drive. That Sunday drive, that we used to talk about when everyone was cruising on a Sunday, stretching their legs, rolling the windows down, wind in their hair. That's gone. Now it's wherever you're going. You're just plugged in and constantly messaging and surfing and learning. It's great. You want to do that? Be a passenger, not a driver.
Sean, do you feel the penalties for DUI are severe enough?
I think that the laws were written fairly well, and if they're actually implemented, if someone is convicted of impaired operation, I think that they're effective. The problem is they're not convicted. I think we know that this is the number one litigated offense or defend. There is more court for this than anything else, and that's because for $35,000, $40,000, you can spend and waste a whole lot of time in court to defend yourself and play on in games. Like I used to go to court all the time for my impaired driving arrests, and it was toxicologists being brought in. Were they really drunk? Well, they were drunk enough that they hit the tree. They had alcohol in their system, and the system, when they were, blew into a machine, said that they had too much alcohol in their blood. Yeah, they were drunk. Well, but how many drinks? They play games. It is chess, and they're just trying to find technicalities to get off. Are we holding people accountable? Well, we're making lawyers a whole bunch of money, but I don't know if we're really holding people accountable. And many jurisdictions have gone by the way of simply getting them to plead guilty to a careless driving charge, which I think is ridiculous. It is actually easier to get a conviction on someone who refuses to provide a breath sample than it is to actually catch the drunk driver who had, a scientific instrument actually establish how much alcohol was in their blood. But the law is not wrong. It's the fact that we waste so much time in court. I think that there's just too many games and too many plea deals.
I would be curious to know what the stats are for the age range. Is it the younger generation doing a lot of it, or is it the older generation that are getting more impaired driving charges?
I don't have stats for you because I didn't do any research specific to that for today. But historically, I think it's more older folks who are dipping into the booze, and the alcohol isn't necessarily a young person's game. There may be more other drugs being used by younger persons, but the majority of people who are breaking laws when it comes to traffic tends to be a good mix. But I think it's the older crowd that gets caught more often than not with the impaired drugs by drugs or alcohol.
Sean, it used to be what, 0.008? Is it now what, 5.5% that you're
So
allowed to have in your system?
there's a provincial law and there's a criminal law. So criminally, when you're actually going to get arrested, is 0.08 and above. That's a charge under the Criminal Code of Canada for having a blood alcohol content of 0.08 and above. But provincially, and I think it's the same for all provinces, you cannot operate a motor vehicle with more than 0.05 BAC, blood alcohol content. And what does it actually mean? So it means that you're going to provide a roadside screening test in most cases, and you are going to blow into that little machine at the side of the road. And what's going to happen is if you blow under 0.05, you're not going to receive a suspension or a charge. At 0.05 to 0.079, you're going to get what's called a warn range suspension. So on the first time this happens to you, you're going to lose your license for 3 days. Second time, I believe it's 7 days. And then it goes up and there's escalating situations. I've never actually had anybody blow a warn a second time in a 10-year period, which is what is required for it to escalate. And then if you're at 0.08, you're going to be handcuffed, taken to a police station, and perform a further test in front of a qualified breath technician, and that's where you're going to get the criminal charge from.
Can somebody who's close to 0.5 just get a warning, or that they're going to be taken off the roads?
0.049 would be, it would, if you're above that, you're losing your license. If you're at or below, like it's not a questionable. In fact, the machine doesn't even give a number rating. It's either a warn or a fail. Or nothing. Actually, it'll give you a number reading if it's under 0.05. So if you get a number reading, you're not getting charged or suspended. As soon as you get that orange light for a warn, you're done. You're getting your suspension. If it's a red light and a fail, you are going to be arrested because they're going to make a demand for a proper breath sample to be taken by a qualified breath technician. So that means going to a station to see that technician for the second set of tests.
Something else that has changed too for police officers the last couple years is the legalization of marijuana. What are your thoughts on that as well? And does the same thing apply from impaired driving to having too much substance in you, like marijuana or cannabis?
Absolutely. I mean, it is different. So you can be impaired by drugs or alcohol. And the question of marijuana being legal, you can have marijuana with you. You can have it in certain circumstances. There's rules about its transportation, but you can't be high and drive. So if you're impaired by drugs, you're still arrestable as an impaired driver. So there's no freebie or easy way to deal with it. Now we have roadside sobriety tests, and we have drug recognition examiners. They're experts that are going to be able to have you do a battery of tests, and based on how you perform on those tests, you're going to find out whether or not you're going to have an arrest and charges laid. And those have the same consequences as alcohol. So if you get charged for impaired operation by drug, you're losing your license. You're going to be charged criminally. Like it's exactly the same. Just the tests to get you there are a little different. Now, there are machines that the police have that are capable of testing for the presence of THC or and cocaine, and there's all sorts of things. They'll do a buccal swab. The machine will analyze it, and it'll do a test. But that's generally not what's being used for the purposes of drivers. It's based on their driving and the observations made by an officer.
How accurate are these machines, and how often do the police have to recalibrate the machines?
I couldn't speak to that. I'm not a qualified technician, but
Okay.
they do have a team that manages all the equipment. A person who is in actually it's a couple of people who manage it for the service, and they're making sure that everything is qualified. If the machine turns on, is capable of taking a test, you know that it's running properly because they time out. They actually will not allow you to take a test over a certain number of days. But to the specifics as to how many, I couldn't speak to.
What are your thoughts on people refusing to take the breathalyzer? Obviously, nowadays you have to take it or you get charged.
Yeah, I think it's great. Refuse all you want because I can get you a conviction for refusing with it all on video. It's fantastic. It's easier for police. So you're like, it's like threatening a cop with a good time. It is less paperwork and less difficulty to convict someone for refusal than it is to go through the rigmarole of challenging, toxicologists in court or being challenged by them. Like it's just it's easy. So yeah, go ahead, refuse. We'll charge you criminally, and then you'll get a conviction, and it'll be slam dunk.
What's some of the biggest excuses that you heard from people over your time as a police officer?
In general, like for
Yeah.
speeding and other offenses, or I mean,
Yes.
the most common one is that they had to poo, and it's always the bathroom, right? That seems to be the common denominator that it's the one they pull out of their back pocket because everyone can relate to it. But sadly, having to go to the bathroom means you had poor planning or a medical condition, but none of them allow you to exceed the speed limit or break any laws.
Sean, I do a lot of driving. I do some media coverage in Buffalo and in Toronto and around Ontario. I find, in my opinion, in the last number of maybe the last 5 years, I find aggressive driving has really gone up, and a lot of people that are not signaling when they do lane changes.
Well, signaling is a required thing you have to do, but it's the least of our problems because you're right. The aggressive driving is off the hook. It is so wild. The excessive speed, the weaving, I don't understand where people got their licenses or how they justify in their own minds being so dangerous on the road. But we're seeing it everywhere. And I think one of the issues is a lack of enforcement. It's not because police don't care, it's because there's not enough police to be able to catch everybody all the time. And that's where I think we need to bring in some electronic enforcement. We need more automated enforcement to catch drivers at lower speeds to prevent them from even getting up to the higher speeds and the aggressive stuff.
Do you see speed cameras eventually one day being on the Gardner, QEW 401, etc.?
I really hope so. I don't think there's any reason not to put them there except for the fact that it hurts people's feelings and upsets them that they're going to get caught for the thing they know they're doing. If you talk to someone about speeding and they're against automated enforcement, they're really against the idea of getting caught because they themselves break the law all the time and don't want to be held accountable.
I know here in the city of Guelph, they're putting more speed cameras into school and residential areas. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And also the traffic lights having cameras there too. Because you probably see this too, Sean. I see a lot of people going right through red lights nowadays.
Oh, for sure. The red light cameras and speed cameras are a normal thing. Red light cameras, I think, can be put anywhere as long as they're signed. In terms of the automated enforcement for speed, it has to be a community safety zone. But now more and more cameras are being put up because more and more zones are being converted to or deemed to be community safety zones. And what makes a community safety zone? Most people say, well, it's got to be schools. Well, it doesn't have to be schools. It could be evidence of collision, pedestrians, people who are vulnerable road users that are being impacted by the excessive speed. So if they can make a case to determine it's a community safety zone, they change it, they throw up some signs, and boom, there's your enforcement, your automated enforcement. And the fact is, cops are better because when you get a ticket from a police officer, it carries demerit points and is given to the driver, and it impacts their driver's license, which means it impacts the driver's insurance. When you get an automated enforcement ticket, it charges the registered owner a fine, and you can't renew your license plate unless you pay it. But there's no other impact to the driver. So what's the real motivation to do better next time? If you're willing to break the law, you're probably willing to pay the fine, and they consider it the subscription system to speeding. It doesn't do as much as I'd like to see. I prefer they do what the Europeans do. If you go to the UK and you go to Australia and you get an automated enforcement speeding ticket, it's against a registered owner's driver's license, which means if you don't want someone to break the law and you be held accountable, you either don't lend out vehicles because the consequence will be against the registered owner, or they have a way of identifying the driver afterwards by saying, it was not Bob, the owner. Bob says it was his son, Jeff. Jeff is stepping up to take responsibility, and then they get the points. So there is a mechanism there, but I think you need major consequences to really motivate drivers. Otherwise, they'll continue to play all the games.
Do these speed cameras have any lenience, like being 1 or 2 kilometers over, or is it exactly the speed limit?
I'm going to guesstimate that it's about 10% leeway, which is still way more than they should, because no one's allowed to speed. So why should they even give you 10%? But they do give you a built-in percentage of leeway. And they don't tell you what it's going to be, because frankly, if I told you that it would give you 5 kilometers grace, then everyone would drive 5 kilometers over, and that would be the new speed limit. And that's the problem with all the rules. If we don't enforce strictly, then we create these unofficial new speeds, and then people drive to those and then get upset when they get a speeding ticket. Like 20 over seems to be the unofficial speed limit everywhere. Well, when you're on the 401 and they pull you over for 20 over, they complain saying, but I was only doing 20 over. There's not the concept that is a complaint. The concept that it is unreasonable to ticket someone for 20 over is ludicrous. 1 kilometer over is against the law. But anyway, I can't get over how many people, and it's the complaints I see all the time. In my videos on TikTok, and I'm on TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, like I'm on all the platforms, but very often the complaints are, but I was only speeding by this much, and they're upset.
What are your thoughts on stunt driving as well? And I believe it's going 40 over?
There's actually a whole bunch of triggers for stunt driving, and I actually got to do an updated video on it, because people don't understand that it's not just speed. So if you do 40 over in a speed zone with a speed limit under 80 kilometers an hour, it's stunt driving. So if you're in a 60 and you're doing 100, that's stunt driving. It's only 40 over, but it's stunt driving. If the speed limit is 80 and above, then you are going to get a ticket or charged with stunt driving when you are doing 50 over. But there's an additional one that nobody seems to know about, and that is 150 anywhere, which means if you live in an area with a stretch of highway that is 110 kilometers an hour, well, as soon as you hit 150, you are stunt driving. That's only 40 over the posted limit, but it's still stunt driving. But there's other things. Like I put up a video a couple days ago where someone had 2 vehicles actually made a left turn against just as soon as the light turned green, before oncoming traffic was able to go through. We call that a jackrabbit start. And that action of driving and making the left turn before oncoming traffic has a chance to go is stunt driving.
Didn't know that, Sean. And I find with our society, everybody is in such a hurry nowadays. And it seems like I said, all these red light cameras, if they put cameras on every single traffic light, I just think there should be more of a deterrence, because I just find nowadays people are just not obeying the rules of the road anymore, in my opinion.
Well, you're 100% right. Everybody's entitled. And I mean that with all the love I can muster. People are entitled. Everyone's focused on their own problems, and they don't plan. Like, how many people don't even realize that they're leaving the house and they're late. So if you have left yourself no time to get there, and now you're stressed out trying to get there on time, which is impossible, because there's a mathematical minimum it's going to take you to get somewhere, and that's assuming no issues. Well, you stepped out your door, you haven't started the car, and you're already late. So you have to give up. You can't make up that time by going fast. So it seems to be that people don't learn from this and continue to do the same things. So because we don't have enough police officers to be on every street corner, and we don't have enough digital cameras and enforcement systems to catch everybody, so many people do this and get away with it. That becomes a new way of doing things. It's got to stop. People need to leave early. So in Toronto, I like to say that everywhere in Toronto is an hour away from Toronto. If you know that, you should be leaving an hour and a half before you have to get somewhere. but then that cuts into Xbox time or family time or sleeping in time. We need to be a little more, well, I don't know, active with our decisions and take a little more responsibility for our lives. And for the people who do that already, kudos to you. You're doing it right. But for the people who are acting like, well, idiots on the road, they need to look back and try and fix what's broke, because they've got some problems.
Basically, plan ahead.
Yeah, I decide what I'm wearing the day before. I don't start, going through making my fashion decisions. Not that I have a big fashion issue, and for many years of my adult life, it was uniform, so I knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't have to think about it. But the average person who's trying to look good and trying not to look bad is so focused on their outward appearance, they might be, spending 20 minutes in their closet trying to color match their socks to their nose ring. I don't know. But whatever you need to do, you should be doing it the day before, not when you've got to leave to go somewhere and be on time. I like to always reference the Toronto police mantra that was instilled into me when I was a cadet as a police to be a police officer, and that is early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable. It's not okay to just show up when you're supposed to be there. So you need to do anything in your power to maximize your time, and that's planning ahead.
Sean, since you worked in the Toronto Police Force, one of my supervisors where I used to work, his name was Bob Moore. He was a Toronto police officer, and his son Brett is in the Toronto Police Services as well. Have you dealt with Brett or maybe Bob at some point in your career?
I've spoken to Bob on the phone, although I don't think we've ever met in person, and I've worked directly for Brett Moore. He's a sergeant now with the Vision Zero enforcement team. He used to be the media officer, and I worked directly for him in the safety programs unit.
Bob kind of helped me out because when I was doing report writing and note taking, he would always get on me and I would get frustrated with him. But in a way, he helped me with my doing investigations and writing reports and stuff like that. So I want to say thank you to Bob Moore for helping me out with his experience as a police officer.
That's awesome. The fact is that the people who are strict, the people who are on you, as you said, you better. The people who give you a pat on the great job when you stink, they're not doing you any favors. They're just avoiding conflict. And I think that's where we've ended up with a lot of industries, educational, systems. We want to make everybody feel happy and not offend them or hurt their feelings. But at the end of the day, we're actually hurting people by being too soft.
What are your thoughts on cyclists and e-bikes who say, "Oh, these
Ooh,
rules don't apply to us"? And I see this,
well,
I see this a lot, even going in the hiking trails. These bike people are. I'm not against people riding their bikes, but just I've seen some of them figure they don't. These rules don't apply to them.
Well, the funny thing with cyclists is sometimes they want to be pedestrians, sometimes they want to be cyclists, sometimes they want to have the same rights and privileges of motor vehicles. And it's tough because there's a lot of fantastic cyclists. I'm a cyclist. I also follow the rules. There are some cyclists, and they're the ones that upset most people, and then they're the ones who don't follow any rules. Yeah, it's a problem. You know, when you talk about sharing the road, it's both ways. Cyclists want cars to share the road with them, but they have to share the road with both motor vehicles, cars, trucks, and other road users, especially pedestrians. So, do I have a problem with cyclists? I have a problem with the ones who put others at risk. And very often I hear the argument that, well, they don't hurt people like cars hurt people, except we've seen fatal collisions involving cyclists and pedestrians and cyclists without the cyclists. So, I'd like everyone to follow the rules, and the rules are that everything under the Highway Traffic Act, save and except for speed and cell phone use, is pretty much it falls on cyclists as well. You have to stop for lights, you have to signal your intentions to move. All those things could result in charges, but when we charge people for those things that are riding cyclists, they get very upset. I don't know why, but they get very upset, and they shouldn't. They should just follow all the rules. Now, e-bikes are a very interesting space because e-bikes, if they follow the guidelines of the Highway Traffic Act, are fantastic. I own 2 e-bikes. They're great. But if you modify those or you buy one that's specifically not legal and capable of going faster than 32 kilometers an hour, it's not an e-bike. That's a motorcycle. It's no different than having a Tesla. It's an electric car. Well, here's an electric motorcycle. And a Tesla doesn't get to become a go-kart and legal for without insurance if it goes 32 kilometers an hour, but an e-bike does. If you are not capable of going faster than 32 kilometers an hour on a flat surface as an e-bike rider, well, that's legal speed. That's the fastest it can be capable. That's not that you dialed it down or you set your cruise control to 32. It's that the vehicle is not capable of going faster on a flat surface. It can't have more than a 500 watt motor, can't weigh more than 120 kilos. It cannot have or must have functioning pedals. And of course, the rider has to wear a helmet, even if they're over 18 years old, which is, or 18 and above, which is different on a pedal bike where you don't have to wear a helmet once you turn 18. Then you're legally permitted to make really bad decisions and not wear a helmet if you so choose.
Impaired driving does apply to cyclists, especially as well.
Actually, impaired driving doesn't impact pedal bike cyclists, but it
Okay.
does impact e-bike riders because according to the Criminal Code of Canada, an e-bike is a motor vehicle and not exempt, even though the Ontario or the HTA, the Highway Traffic Act of Ontario, exempts them from all the rules of being a motor vehicle. The criminal code is still king, and they say it is a motor vehicle, anything other than muscular power. So if you're in a mobility scooter, aside from a wheelchair, a power wheelchair is not a motor vehicle, but everything else is. So if you're in an electric scooter because you have mobility issues and you're having a few drinks, you could actually be charged under the criminal code for impaired operation.
Does an e-bike person have to be licensed as well?
They don't have to be licensed. So if it's a legal conforming e-bike, they are treated as a cyclist, and it means no insurance, no permit for a motor vehicle, and no driver's license is required. But there are limits even then, but they're different limits. Like in the city of Toronto, there are maximum speeds in our parks, but it doesn't matter if you're on an e-bike, a pedal bike, rollerblades, I suppose even technically running. There's a 15 or 20 kilometer an hour maximum speed permitted in parks that you would be eligible for bylaw tickets for.
Now, I still see a lot of cyclists or e-bikes riding on the sidewalk. What's the penalty for that?
It depends on what jurisdiction you're in. So if you are in the city of Toronto, you are not permitted to be on the sidewalk if you are 14 years or older. It used to be based on tire diameter in the city of Toronto, and it changed a number of years ago to age. So 14 and above must be on the road, cannot be on the sidewalk, which many people are scared of being on the road. And to them, I would say don't ride in Toronto because it's not for you. It's a scary place because you've got a lot of people in a small space. If you want to ride comfortably, go outside of Toronto where it's a little less densely populated with vehicles and such. Now, the ticket, I believe, is $110.
Do you find there's enough bike lanes in the city of Toronto? I know in Guelph they've expanded it and where there's more bike lanes, but I just wanted to get your perspective from the Toronto area.
I can't speak to anywhere else, but in Toronto, I think that in the downtown core, there's too many. And I know that's not a popular thing, and the cycling community doesn't love me when I talk about this, but it is so difficult to get around by car now. And it's because of, in many situations, not in all, but many, because there's too many bike lanes and they're underutilized. I don't think I see bikes once in a while using them, and they take up, in some cases, a half lane, if not more. So traffic is a mess in the city, and I think a lot has to do with the abundance of bike lanes.
Is this a city or a provincial issue to let's say cut back the bike lanes and expand the roads again?
I would have normally said municipal, but as you can see from the media in the last year or so, the provincial government has spoken up about it and suggested that there are areas where it should be removed. And I don't know where it sits today. I've sort of lost interest in the whole topic, but there was talk of it being removed for certain routes, especially as they feed into and out of Hospital Row, because the allegation is that it was slowing down emergency response. And I got to tell you that if there's one lane and a bunch of bike lanes and ambulance needs to get by, where do they go? There's nowhere for you. You can't, if it's a segregated or a cycle track, which actually has a physical barrier, cars can't get over the physical barrier. There's a barrier. If it's a cycle lane, they can just drive over and block it and, let the ambulance or other emergency vehicle get by. It's an interesting conversation. I look forward to seeing what the solution is. It's whenever those people who engineer the engineering of roads that finally decide something standard, and every bike lane and intersection engaging with bike lanes tends to be designed differently in the city of Toronto. So there's no consistency.
What are your thoughts on parking bylaw enforcement officers? I was reading one of them did a TikTok that recently a couple of them in Toronto have been assaulted. And do you see that happening now? People being more aggressive with parking enforcement officers?
100%. And that was Erin Urquhart who made that
Yes.
video. And she and I used to work with each other a lot. She's a media officer at Traffic Services or Parking Enforcement Unit, which was under the same command structure as Traffic Services. So we worked together a lot. Anyway, fantastic officer and fantastic program. Parking enforcement officers don't get the credit they deserve. They help keep the city moving. If everyone just parked willy-nilly wherever they wanted to, I can tell you everyone would be very upset because no one would be getting anywhere quickly. And they don't get the credit they deserve, but they're very, very important. So anyone putting hands on a parking enforcement officer must know that they are peace officers when engaged in the lawful execution of their duties. And when you are assaulting them, you're going to be charged with assaulting a peace officer. So that's an added layer of fun for your criminal charges. And it is criminal. You don't touch people. They should have learned that in public school.
Zero tolerance. And in your time, Sean, what were some of the worst parking jobs that you saw as an officer
Worst
in Toronto?
parking jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, I never focused on parking enforcement, but
Okay.
anyone who's leaving a car anywhere it's not supposed to turned me into someone who was calling for backup when it came to parking. Police officers get about 10 seconds of parking enforcement training, and occasionally, did stuff for clearing the traffic routes. But I got to again hand it to the parking enforcement officers who really are diligent and effective at keeping our roads moving from that perspective, for making sure people don't leave their vehicles. I will tell you that I've given out plenty of tickets to people who were, leaving their car running in front of a Timmy's to go grab a bean because they decided they needed to be caffeinated and just left their car on the road. Those are the things that they don't seem to understand, that hazard lights, the flashing blinkers, they don't prevent tickets, and they don't mean I'm just getting a coffee, giving them permission magically to jump into a store. These are frustrations that affect everybody in the city of Toronto, unless they're the ones getting the coffee.
Toronto might be a little different than Guelph. Is there like a fine for letting your car idle more than 3 minutes? And
I think it's
go ahead.
4.5 minutes, but I've never laid the charge because frankly I don't agree with it. But there's a bunch of laws like that.
And what are your thoughts on all these vehicles getting stolen nowadays? Obviously, with this new technology and these push buttons and fobs and stuff, what's your thoughts on it? And what can people who are watching or listening do to kind of reduce the chances of their vehicle being broken into or stolen?
It's funny you mentioned that. I talk about auto theft a great deal, and it's funny. There's theft reduction and then there's harm reduction, and we have to remember that they're very different things. At the end of the day, the reason that car theft is so strong or such a busy thing is that there's so many people willing to pay for stolen stuff. There's a market for it, whether it be locally or internationally. So until we can really shut down the crime and make it that no one's capable of removing a vehicle from this country, we're never going to stop it. Like, crime pays apparently, and that's why they're engaged in it. So that's a bigger problem outside of my purview. However, when we talk about making your vehicle less attractive to those lazy buggers who are stealing your stuff, and they are lazy, they don't want to get a job, they want to have the easy money of stealing your stuff. So no bones about it, they are lazy. But they're so lazy that if you have something on your vehicle that makes it less attractive to a would-be thief, they're likely going to steal your neighbor's car instead of yours. So the club is a great visual deterrent. It's a physical barrier. In fact, I've got links to a bunch of stuff on my website, askatrafficcop.ca, and you can go and find things there that I've suggested you should have in your vehicle, the club being one of them. There's things like blocking your OBD port, or ODB, I get them mixed up all the time. ODB port, which allows them to reprogram keys and basically bypass security. So you blocking that port's a great way. Adding a kill switch hidden in your vehicle that you would switch before trying to turn on your fuel or your ignition, because it would disable your fuel pump. There's tons of things you can do, as well as some high tech things. But one of the simplest things, especially with relay theft, that's where they have one bad guy who stands at your front door with an antenna and a laptop, and they send a signal. They replicate what's inside your house in your fob and project it towards your transmit it towards your car, so that they can copy it and then just drive away. So there's lots of different theft styles. But here's the terrible thing: if they want your car, they're going to get it. If they want what you have, just having a club or a relay Faraday bag for your keys won't prevent them. And it's usually with the higher end stuff, but they're willing to kick in your door and take your keys at gunpoint if they have to, because they're a motivated thief and they want what they want. The truth is, we need more cops, and we need stricter laws, and we need to see them being actually putting people in jail.
Is there any talk about it provincially or federally into increasing the penalties for this?
Well, again, one of our biggest problems is not the law on the books, but the enforcement of that law in the courts, because very often, we find out that Bobby Bo, whatever name of the criminal is, had a really rough childhood, and his dad didn't hug him, and as a result, we're going to give him another chance. And then on his 30-second car theft arrest, where we might do something. I'm exaggerating it, of course, for dramatic effect, but the truth is, we have a hug a thug situation in a lot of our courts, and that has to change. We need to have a hard line on theft and criminality, and we need to put people in jail.
I know with myself, I don't leave anything valuable in my car, or if I did, I would make sure I would hide it at a site. But I know at nighttime, I keep my car in the garage at night, lock it up, and I keep the fob down in my basement, far enough away from the garage.
Well, it's funny you say that, because there was a friend of mine who got a horrible trashing in the media because he went to a city event and said that people should leave their fobs at the front door. And by doing so, he was laughed at, and even the Toronto police didn't support him in that, even though it was actually the best advice you can give somebody. Leaving it at the front door in a Faraday bag prevents the relay theft, but doesn't prevent them from finding it if they kick your door in. And the reason why that's important is the harm reduction. See, I don't want someone not finding my keys, kicking in my door, and putting a gun to my nose to say, "Give me your keys." I want them to find it at the front door, take my wheels, and go away, because my wheels are insured. And the trauma of having my family woken up at gunpoint is something that you're not going to recover from. It's not an easy situation to just get over. And I've heard way too many stories about people having their homes violated, because that's what it is when someone breaks in. They violate the home. And that's not where you want it to go. So if you've got a vehicle that they want to get, I say you let them have it. I don't say you gift it with a bow and leave the keys on the outside like some people were joking about, but you protect your family first.
What are your thoughts on OnStar? I have it on my vehicle, and I just wanted to get your perspective. And thank you, Sean, for explaining that as well.
So OnStar is a great concept, and I had it in several of my vehicles over the years, but I don't know if that's really a thing anymore. So the nice thing about OnStar is that it's a higher power, lower sort of generation of cellular device that's inside the car. So in areas where your handheld may not work, the higher booster or higher power transmitter in the car might actually get signal where you can't with your handheld device. That said, I don't like the idea of having to pay for it. So when it was free, I used it, and when it expired, I never renewed it ever. And I've had a cell phone since cell phones sort of came out, and I rely on that technology. The idea, however, that it calls police for you in the event of a collision is brilliant. But my Apple iPhone does that for me anyway. So if you don't have a cell phone, this is great. If you have a cell phone, but it's an older generation one, doesn't have all the bells and whistles like an iPhone or the average current generation smartphone, then it may be useful for you. But in concept, I think it's a brilliant idea. You want police, fire, and ambulance to be dispatched to your location in the event of a collision. But I'll tell you something, even my watch will call police if I fall down. So we've
Wow.
taken OnStar and put it on my wrist. Every Apple iWatch has fall protection. Your iPhone has fall protection, even if you don't have an Apple Watch. So is OnStar redundant? I kind of think it is now.
What are your thoughts on maybe going back to the regular standard keys instead of the fobs?
Best security feature ever. The hardest one to steal right now is going to be a traditional keyed car with a manual transmission. Those are probably going to be the least targeted vehicle, because it's old school, and truly one step above the simple key is that of the Cadillac or the GM key that used to have the microchip on it. You couldn't even get a key cut at a regular place. You had to go to them because it had a chip on the key. That was the best security, period.
What are some of the biggest targeted vehicles right now?
I don't know what's current. A lot of the Japanese vehicles, mid range, were very highly targeted, but now everything is a target. It's regardless of whether or not it's the number one or the number five. They're stealing a whole gamut of vehicles, whole range, and some of them are because they like them for ditch cars. They're taking cheap cars, easy to steal. They use those to get places to steal another vehicle or be involved in another criminal act, whether it be a robbery or a home invasion or a drive, or whatever the case is. One is a throwaway car, and one is the sale car, and that sale car being one that they want to flip and part out or send overseas.
Sean, I know you're very active on social media and making radio appearances as well. Have you thought about in the future writing a book about your career as a police officer and what you're doing now with educating people on driving and traffic?
Well, it's funny you say that because I've actually written that book already, and I'm about 6 months behind schedule in terms of publishing it. But I've written that book, and the goal is to help police agencies communicate better on social media and in general. So it's my journey from being on the road to being in front of the camera, and that imparting all the knowledge that I've accumulated along the way. And I hope it helps people with that journey. And it's not just for police, although it's focused for police agencies. It's about teaching anything that isn't sexy, because sexy is easy, but teaching traffic and teaching accounting online are two verticals that they don't compute. You look at, why is he talking online? And truthfully, I got to tell you, when I started on live stream, talking about traffic, I never expected to get over 675,000 followers
Amazing.
on TikTok. Right, you're just
That's
wild.
amazing.
And yet people tuned in, and I kept on getting people giving me advice, the advice from people who don't matter and don't know anything. Well, they kept on saying, it's never going to work. You got to change it up. You got to spice it up. No one will continue watching the same thing every day. And yet the same thing every day has continued to be the mainstay of my social media presence since I started it, during the pandemic.
Congratulations on the book. Are you doing this self-published? And go ahead.
I was going to say I am doing self-publish, and only for the reason that when you publish it through a publishing house, my understanding is they control how it's distributed, and I want to be able to give it away a lot. Like, I don't mind selling it, but I want to give it away to a lot of people. And my understanding is that's the self-publishing allows you to do that most effectively.
When the book comes out, Sean, how can people purchase your book online or in bookstores?
So I don't know about bookstores. I think it's going to be mostly direct and on Amazon, because I plan on using Amazon for the final publish. And the way to do it would be through the Amazon store or through SeanShapiro.com, voiceovercop.com, all those websites, askatrafficcop.ca. They'll all link and have a link to the book eventually. Better Traffic is the not-for-profit that I created. That basically has the support of some private funding, and all the websites tie together. So if you can find me anywhere, you'll be able to find how to get the book.
What are your thoughts on branding, marketing yourself, and will you have T-shirts and hats out in the future as well?
Well, it's funny. The hat I'm wearing is a one-off. Actually, now I've made 3 because some people asked for some. But I never planned on having merch, but there's been requests for it. So I guess I got to look at branding. But I don't know how interesting or how much of an interest there would be to have my face on people's shirts. That said, it's a thing I haven't spent a lot of time looking at. But in terms of branding and appearances, I'm out there talking to people all the time, doing podcasts and radio appearances, because I'm hoping to help more people every single day. That's my whole mission, is to make roads safer, and you only do that when you talk to people.
Do you make TV appearances as well?
I haven't been doing a lot of television since leaving the police service. I used to frequent Global and City when I was on the job. What I've really focused on doing, because it allows me to do it from home, is radio appearances. So I very frequently appear on News Talk 1010, AM 640, and whomever else rings up to say they need someone to speak about something traffic related. And I'm really not pushing it, but I've been doing it for so long that I'm on their speed dial, so they call me.
When did you join TikTok? I know I joined it 5 years ago at the age of 47, and I thought it was a terrible idea, and I learned how to cut promos and promote my show, create content from TikTok, and I wanted to get your thoughts on how much TikTok's impacted your what you're doing as well, educating people.
So it's funny. I had always had an interest, and I was a photographer, and I'd been dabbling in video, but I'd never really created content, at least not in this style. I'd done long form stuff. And when I was first introduced to TikTok, I was told, you need to be there because you have kids and you need to know what's going on. So you should be on the app. So I installed the app and I had a look and I saw young people dancing inappropriately. At least, I had this old curmudgeon perspective saying, this is not for me. I'm a stranger in a strange world. Get me out of here. And I deleted the app. I had nothing to do with it after that. And then we had an investigation of some traffic activity online, which forced me to once again look at it. And since I was there and communicating on behalf of the Toronto Police, I started uploading content that I created for YouTube and other social media platforms. And it took off. Like, it really took off. And within weeks, I had 17,000 followers. And a few weeks later, I had 50. A few weeks later, we were at 100. Like, it really exploded. And who knew that people wanted to see this kind of content? It really changed the way I looked at social media. YouTube has always been a big staple in my learning space. I went to YouTube for everything. I've learned how to fix dishwashers and washing machines and cars, all on YouTube. A fantastic resource. But a lot of what I had to say isn't something I need an hour to do. So this short form change, which was really or the people who were responsible for it, are TikTok. They TikTokified everything because now all platforms want to be on short form as well, reels and shorts. This is all competing with TikTok. So did it change my life? Absolutely. And you have to understand that I was not ever planning to be a media guy. I was a motor officer. I rode a motorcycle every day. It's the best job in the world, riding a Harley Davidson, morning, noon, and night. I loved every second of it. And then until I got hit by a car, which changed the direction of my career. Now I couldn't go on the road. Now I was recovering from injuries that I still suffer from today. And what do you do? And how do you make a meaningful impact when you can't go out, strap a gun to your hip, and change the world and save the day? Well, I found a way. I get to educate people, and I get to develop relationships, and I get to help recruit new officers. I can't tell you how many people have written to me saying, I wanted to become a police officer only after seeing your show, or now I want to be a traffic officer in particular because I understand how important they are. Things that prior to, I would have never thought there was a connection of some guy yapping on the internet can change the hearts and minds the way that I've apparently managed to do.
I connected with you through TikTok, and Sean, the reason why I connected with you is because you don't talk down to people. You relate to people. You're a good communicator, and obviously, being a media relations person and a social media lead with the Toronto Police Services has definitely helped you out on social media and TikTok, and you do a great job.
Thanks very much. I got to say though, occasionally I talk down to trolls. I have some people that come in with hate and harassment, and I don't have a lot of time for them. But for all the people with legitimate questions and positive attitudes, I got all the time in the world.
As for the trolls, I don't engage with them. I just block them and move on from them.
Well, I must say that I've tried different tactics, and ignoring them was one way. But occasionally, even when I was on the job, I would do what I think the kids call clapback, where I give them a little bit of a verbal smack, and the crowd goes wild. The general audience, who is already defending me before I have a chance to say anything, really appreciates when you stand up for yourself. And so often, and I think this is a general, not specific to social media, but I think people need to stand up for themselves. And there's no one who deserves to be harassed and abused. But if you don't say anything, I think it's less good than if you at least acknowledge that what you're saying is not appropriate. I'm going to ban you, but I'm going to tell you why I'm going to ban you, and then proceed to ban. But to simply quietly make it go away, I just developed this rhythm of, I'm going to give you a little slap, and then we're going to go. And sometimes I really do talk down to them. So but it's all for the benefit of everybody else in the channel. I'm not trying to be a bully. It's sort of, if anything, it's bullying the bullies. I do not like when people come out, and it's not because I'm personally offended. It's because these people just don't know how to act in public, and they just need a little bit of motivation, I think. And maybe I give it to them. Maybe they rethink their things, or maybe they don't care, but everyone else has left.
Great advice, Sean. And you know what, being in media, I'm gonna apply that going forward and see if I can do it your way as well. And thank you for explaining that.
Well, I'll give you one other thing to think about. Most of the
Okay.
people who are coming out as trolls, most of the people who are coming out and being mean or trying to get attention that way are actually people who are suffering. And sometimes the clapback is to simply give them attention, saying, I appreciate that you might be having a bad day, or you've had a bad experience in your life, or you don't like cops because whatever experience you had. And that's often one of my responses, is saying, I can suggest some of the places you can get help. And that's not a mean way, but it's really a good way of disarming them, because most of the people who are at home yelling at other people are having problems themselves. And if you don't already know who Gary V is, you should go check out his content, because Gary Vaynerchuk is one of my uh, one of the people that I really hold out as a shining example of how to be on social media. And it's actually his advice that suggests that the people who are trolls and being mean online are they themselves hurting. So he prefers to simply go with that kind hand. I flip flop, because sometimes I'm in the mood where I can be kind, and sometimes I'm a little bit sharp because that salty cop comes out.
Sean, if you got a few more minutes, I just have a couple more questions I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
What made you decide? What made you pursue a career in law enforcement as a police officer? And for those people that are watching this live stream or on audio and they're looking to pursue a career in law enforcement, what advice would you give to them?
Well, the first thing is, how did I determine I wanted to be a cop? I wanted to be a cop for as long as I can remember. I fell in love with the idea of becoming a motorcycle police officer because of a once very popular television show called Chips. I
Chips.
remember, yeah, California Highway Patrol,
Yep.
Chippies, and I had the great honor of meeting the cast. Eric
Wow.
Estrada and Larry Wilcox. I flew down to LA to hang out with them for a couple of days. It was just the most amazing opportunity, and those guys are still my heroes. They really did motivate me to want to become a police officer and help people. And it was a different time. And that show, which I still watch with my kids because it's family friendly TV, um, it really influenced my life. Now, that wasn't the end. I had met a number of police officers along the way and thought it was just awesome to be able to go put on a uniform and do for others without having to go ask them for a bill at the end. And I still struggle with the concept of asking people for money, getting paid, even though I do services for people. It's not because I want to, make tons of money. I mean, tons of money is great, but I don't. I really liked that I got to help people without sending them a bill at the end. But being a protector and helping other people has always been part of my DNA. From standing up to bullies in high school and protecting others to eventually becoming an auxiliary police constable and a court officer and then a police constable.
Sean, out of all the police shows that have been on TV, maybe since the 70s and 80s, which one or which ones do you thought were the most somewhat realistic towards what police officers deal with?
That's really tough. I don't know. I don't know which ones, because I tend to be the worst critic of I love police dramas. I watch all of them. It's become a family thing. My wife got used to it and had to get over the fact that I'm like, that's not an official. They wouldn't do that. That's not good. So I criticize them a great deal. Maybe I should be consulting for them, but that's another story. I really appreciate and can put aside the reality for more of the emotional story. Like I loved Blue Bloods. I watched every episode of Blue Bloods, and that's a great show. Which featured Tom Selleck as the commissioner with his family of all in the police service. Loved it. NYPD stuff. I loved, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is a comedy, and that one's so super realistic. Except the humor, everyone knows the characters in their own police service from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It was absolutely hilarious, but a lot of that outside of the actual solving of cases was very realistic in terms of how things get on. Uh, Exaggerated, of course, but you know, The Rookie. I love The Rookie, although GoPros are not in-dash cameras and nobody saves. The Rookie is completely inaccurate in terms of one shift doing everything major across the city, but a lot of what they did was really good. So I can't point to one that's really good. I think you got to watch all of them and take that journey and see what it's all about. But I think television is not meant to be the reality of it. Like I used to love all the SVU, Law and Order stuff, and again, these cases don't happen in 2 days or 2 months. Sometimes they're 2 years. So are they realistic? No. Are they excellent examples of the good and bad in humanity and sort of a window into what could possibly be? I think they're fantastic, and I'll continue to watch all those shows.
Sean, right now in 2025, what are some stereotypes still of a police officer, even going into 2025?
Oh, interesting. I think we still see people believing that police officers are bullies, are the uneducated folks who couldn't make it in the real world, so they put on a badge and a gun to take out their frustration on everybody else, and it couldn't be further from the truth. We have people with PhDs who get tired of the corporate world and become police officers. People who just want to help others who become police officers. People who get tired of being indoors and want the flexibility of being outside. People who just are people who want to help other people. And it takes all kinds, all shapes and sizes, not just thugs. In fact, I would say that there aren't any. It used to be that you had only the farmers and the football players and the guys who couldn't pass. They used to say they made coppers, but there's so many people. It is such a different career path than it was 100 years ago. And I say 100 years ago quite literally. It's not the same thing. Now we have an intellectual service. We have people who are strategically responding to calls. We're not just jumping into whatever and trying to figure it out. We've done these things. We've trained for these things, and there's a lot of good. Not just a lot of good. It's 99.99% good people. There's occasionally some bad actors who are there for the wrong reasons, and they get weeded out because nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop does. But I don't think any of the stereotypes are accurate. Yeah. I think that the folks who are giving out speeding tickets are not trying to make money for the city. They're trying to change driver behavior. I say that because I was one of them. And I don't know anybody who goes out there and loves to hurt people and does it for that reason. No, if they have to use force, they are using it as a last resort. And quite frankly, when force is applied, we're waiting for the lawsuit to come. We're waiting for our lives to be negatively impacted because policing is the most scrutinized job in the world. It is without question the most scrutinized, more than doctors, lawyers combined. I think that people just don't like being told no, and they don't like being told that it's going to cost them money for a ticket for something they did, because taking accountability is tough. I get it, but it's the reality is police are the parents. They're society's parents. They go out, and when do police step in? When you can't fix your own problems, when you're yelling at your spouse, when you're yelling at your kid, when kids are yelling at each other. Police come in when nobody can handle their own stuff. And it's sad. It's a reality, but it's sad that people get to the point where they cannot control their own stuff. And I get it. Not everybody has had an easy life, and sometimes they've got anger management problems, mental health problems, whatever the case may be. But if the police are stepping in, that is a clear indicator that you've made a wrong turn.
Do you feel police nowadays in 2025 get enough training dealing with crisis? Because I think there's more mental health issues and crises now than ever before.
So what you need to know about policing is that it is training, 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 and training. Annually, more training and new training, more developing tactics on how to deal with crisis and mental health and domestic violence. And it's constant training. Like I can't tell you how many courses I've taken, both online, in person, and people who really specialize in partnerships with nurses and like, it's not just drive around and wait for an alarm to go off and go, I am on my way to save the day. Like, no, it is. There are teams and specialists and people with all different backgrounds and professional degrees that make them good candidates to be the representatives of different areas. Like we have people, there's a medical doctor who came and became a police officer. That person will likely one day turn into the person who writes the procedures for something that will change the way we do things again. What I'm getting at is there's tons of training, and it's always changing, and we're on the cusp of it, because when something doesn't go right, they find a million reasons to blame the police. And then we find new training courses to make sure it never happens again that way.
As a police officer too, how important is communication? Especially, I know everybody says talking, but I find listening is just as important as talking too.
Listen, if you're they say, what did they say? They say you were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so you can listen twice as much as you speak. I do a lot of speaking, but I try and listen as well. And being a listener and being an active listener is really important. If I'm just waiting for your lips to stop moving so I can say what I want to say next, that's not effective communication. Policing really does develop excellent communicators. Does the training land for everybody? No, but the vast majority are very good. And I got to tell you, policing's made me a better person in general. I started when I was 25 years old. I got to say that I've developed, and it changed the course, the trajectory of my life. When I became a court officer, which was as a police, or a volunteer as an auxiliary constable, which, by the way, is an amazing program. If you don't want to be a cop, but you want to learn about policing, you want to contribute, you want to volunteer, auxiliary policing is amazing for any of your listeners. Now, that said, court officer, I was in a prison setting. I was in a jail setting. I was holding prisoners that were coming from jail to go to court, and they were there, and they were professional prisoners, and they were coming from jail. This wasn't their first rodeo, but it was certainly mine. So when something as simple as, "Hey boss, can I have an extra cheese sandwich?" And I'm like, "Why not?" you know, what's a cheese sandwich to me? You're hungry? Like, I want to. Learning to say no, because you can't give everybody a cheese sandwich after everyone got a cheese sandwich. You can't give everybody, like, very simple things, very simple lessons changed things for me by learning to actually be able to say no to people. And that's tough because most people want to say yes. And I was one of those people. So, yeah, policing over 25 years has really molded me into a better human. I was pretty good before, but I was better after.
And I know I was in security for 23 and a half years, and I think it prepared me for radio because I did corporate security at a casino, and I had to deal with impaired people. I had to deal with medicals. I had to deal with people having mental health issues. I had to deal with working with police when they were called when we needed to,
Mhm.
and I learned how deal to de-escalate situations as well. And also, I learned I had to learn how to think on my feet and also listen and show empathy to people that lost money in a casino as well. Obviously, not the same as a police officer, but a lot of the skills from my former career, I think, prepared me for this.
It's funny. One of the projects I'm working on right now is another book, and I'm dealing with customer service. I think police officers are the ultimate customer service representatives, and because they understand what the deliverable is, they understand how to communicate it, and well, people may not like the message. They hold their line really, really well. I think that there's so many comparisons, and I like to go out and use restaurants and buy things, and I think that we're lacking in customer service. I think there's a lot that can be learned from the policing sector in other industries. So I'm looking at a lot of those comparables.
Before we wrap this up, Sean, how difficult was it to retire from the Toronto Police Service, and what's life been like after policing?
So I left about 8 years earlier than I planned to, and I
Okay.
left just before I turned 50. And there's a reason for that, is because you lock into a pension program at 50 years old, and I didn't want to. I wanted to protect my family financially, which goes against what most people would think. See, when you are in a pension program that's fixed, when you die, and I know that's a reality, people do die. When you die as the police officer or member, your spouse gets 66%. If they die, your children get nothing except what you contributed yourself. So the employer side of it, they don't get. I was concerned that if something happened to me or my wife, that my kids wouldn't be covered. And that's really what influenced me leaving early, along with the fact that my family has some health issues that I'm helping to deal with right now. So I left earlier than I planned to, and it was very difficult and very emotional. And I still would love to be a police officer, and quite frankly, I would consider going back if things were to resolve themselves in terms of the health issues we're dealing with. We'll see what happens in the future. But in the meantime, I've started a media company where I'm actually helping people develop podcasts and content, and it's called Shap Media Group. And funny, my name is Shapiro. I called it Shap Media Group, and that's my full-time gig. And then on the side, I've created a not-for-profit organization to try and forward and develop better traffic safety education across North America, and that is the Canadian Organization for Better Traffic Safety and Education. That's a not-for-profit, and that's what's hosting all of the daily shows and whatnot. And the fact is that particular organization is receiving funding from different private sponsors and donors, and we're trying to develop more of that. So if somebody wants to help us with our mission and support us, bettertraffic.ca is the website. They can also go to askatrafficcop.ca, and there's links to donate. If somebody wants to throw, $5 our way to help it, anything would be appreciated.
I would do this with all my guests, Sean. What's a fun fact about yourself?
A fun fact: I am not this big in person. It's funny. I'm 6'5", and the number one thing that people say to me when they meet me is they look up and they go, "You're a lot bigger than I thought you were." Is it a fun fact? I don't know if that's the most fun, but it's certainly the thing that popped into my head. I'm a geek. I've always been a geek. I'm a computer guy, a camera guy, a remote controlled aircraft guy. Like, I have a lot of interests, and the one benefit I will share with you about not having to go to work every day is I get to explore a lot of those hobbies more in depth. Now that I've left.
Are you a big sports fan too? Toronto Maple Leaf fan?
So oddly enough, I've never been involved with sports ever.
Really?
I
Wow.
I certainly cheer on our teams because there are teams, but I've gone to games. I can appreciate going to a game now and again, but I'm not a true sports fan. What I am interested in is competitive marksmanship. I like shooting sports, but I like it because I do it as opposed to watching other people play. I've never understood the concept of watching organized sports because I'm not doing it. So I liked playing baseball and hockey and all those things, but I didn't like watching other people do it.
Sean, if I do have you come back on my show again in the future, I would like to ask you about how important it is for police officers and first liners when they're not working to have other hobbies and interests because the work can start getting to your mental health after a while. Burnout.
I have spoken at great length about burnout, mental health, and I've been on a number of podcasts on that very topic, and it's a huge thing. So I will tell you that and whether we close on this or if you have more stuff to come with it after, you tell me. But the deal is that you need to have a life outside of policing while you're a police officer. You need to have a life outside of policing because it's that life you're going to return to when you're finished being a police officer. There are people who will never finish. They're probably going to die in uniform, not because of harmful thing, but because they won't leave. And that's good too. If everything is policing for you, power to you. You have to be happy. But I think it's very important to maintain friends that are not police officers, to maintain hobbies that are completely unrelated. It's just about having a well-rounded life.
Work-life balance. Yes. Absolutely. Finally, Sean, where can my audience follow you again on social media, your website, and tell us about your next Ask a Traffic Cop show on TikTok and your YouTube channel and any upcoming radio appearances as well.
So in terms of where to find me, the channel that I've been most active on since leaving the police is VoiceOver Cop. VoiceOver Cop is my YouTube channel, my TikTok, everywhere on social media. And that's an easy one. If you go to trafficcop.ca, or it's my link tree to a bunch of different stuff, but I've just launched askatrafficcop.ca, which is the show page, and on that page I have links to absolutely everything. So whatever your preferred podcast platform, we've got a link to it. Whatever your preferred social media platform, because I'm on TikTok, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube, Instagram. There's no platform that I'm ignoring. It's just a matter of finding the one that you like the most. I think YouTube is the best in terms of the integration, because when I go live with Ask a Traffic Cop, it's on multiple platforms. I'm streaming on YouTube. I was on LinkedIn, but we've been having a technical problem with LinkedIn for the last couple of weeks. So we've gone back to Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, and X. So when we're there, we're everywhere. But when you actually come in on YouTube, you can put your questions on the screen like you have questions on the screen right now. When the audience comes in, you were asking what my next episode will be on. And the truth is, It's on whatever you ask about, because it's an audience-led show. And if we have nobody in there, I have other topics that I'll bounce back to. But if we have a million questions, we'll be talking about a million. And although I aim for an hour, today's live stream was an hour and a half. The Tuesday night live streams tend to go up to 2 hours. It's whatever the demand is. If we're talking, we're having fun, we're going to keep talking. If it's not so exciting, we'll wrap it up. And it's all based on the audience. There is one thing that I'm doing that's different right now, is I am working on reading the entire magical director. Is it a director? It's a handbook. This book, the Driver's Handbook of Ontario, it's the official one. I'm reading it page by page. I've got a playlist on my YouTube channel where viewers can go and actually have me read the book with some commentary. But it's great for those who have difficulty focusing and for new drivers who are trying to get through it, but it's boring and they're just not excited about it. Well, having me read it makes it a little bit easier.
Well, Sean, I want to say thank you for giving us over 75 minutes of your time today. And you have an open invite to come back on my show again, and give me a little bit of time and I will send you the video, the audio, and I'll break this down into reels and clips. I normally wear a hat. I'm a hat guy, but with this show, and you know this as well too, I wear about 8 or 9 different hats as well. And learning how to edit video is a must. And I will send you all this information when we're finished.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. And I would love to share that with my audience because I've had a lot of fun on your show. I'd love to come back again.
Thank you so much, Sean. Continued success, and look forward to seeing your next show on TikTok.
Thanks very much. We'll see you again soon. Take care.
You too. Have a good day. All right, guys, that concludes season 10, episode 41, overall 536 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph. That was Sean Shapiro, a former longtime police officer with Toronto Police Services, and now the TikTok host of Ask a Traffic Cop show. And Sean is on all social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. I will put it down on the graphics before we end this show. I do have a video I'm going to show from Sean's YouTube channel. It's called Voice Over Cop. It's his YouTube channel. Please make sure you hit the subscribe and like notification. So again, here's a little video from Sean Shapiro's Voice Over Cop channel on YouTube.
Just on the news, Karen Lieberman of Global News reached out to ask about a fatal collision that occurred on Lakeshore Boulevard West in the city of Toronto. They wanted my opinion, which I gave because that's what I do. Now, if you agree or disagree with what I said, please let me know in the comments, because I'd love to know if you think my ideas were a little bit too much. Let me know. Let's watch the video.
Firefighters moved quickly to put out flames and rescue the driver of this vehicle that police say struck a curb and crashed into a light post.
We used just about every piece of equipment we had in the toolbox for this one. Like I said, airbags, cribbing, jaws, rams, struts, sawzalls, everything. This was pretty horrific.
It took nearly an hour to extricate the 24-year-old driver, who was rushed to hospital in life-threatening condition and died Thursday. The cause of the crash is under investigation, but police have pointed to speed.
Vlosser was traveling at a high rate of speed eastbound on Lakeshore Boulevard West of Colburn Lodge Road.
On Wednesday, the city announced 75 new speed cameras.
It's about keeping people safe.
They've been installed throughout the city based on collision and speeding data.
There's already quite a few cameras around. There will always be accidents. No matter what happens, there'll always be accidents. So I think it has to be a balance.
People are not maintaining their speed limits and they are always in a rush.
Speed cameras are placed in community safety zones, areas near schools, hospitals, playgrounds. There are only 2 on Lakeshore Boulevard West, between 24th Street and Kipling Avenue, and between Long Branch Avenue and 38th Street.
And I think you've got a great case for making the Lakeshore a community safe zone.
This former traffic services constable, traffic safety advocate, suggests broadening community safety zones.
But I'm not sure why all roads aren't community safety zone, because speed directly impacts the safety and security of communities.
He's also calling for a heightened police presence in the area, enforcing Highway Traffic Act laws. Karen Lieberman, Global News.
I want to point out first that there are no accidents. at least not behind the wheel of a car. Those are collisions or crashes, and they're caused by driver error or poor choices made whilst in control of a motor vehicle, but not accidents. Secondly, I want to talk about the automated enforcement suggestion I had. And that is, I think they should be on every road. See, if you don't speed, if you don't break the law, they are of no concern to you. You're not going to get a ticket. They're only a concern for those who break the law. So why not put them on every road? Only those who violate will ever be impacted. Now, in that situation, you might miscalculate. You might go the wrong speed and you might get a ticket, but I bet you won't forget getting that ticket in the mail, and you'll know better next time. We don't have enough police officers to be everywhere. We don't have enough police officers to properly impact the city of Toronto or anywhere else in North America for that matter. We need more cops. We also need people to slow down and follow the rules. And automated enforcement really does help cover it off, a balance. That way, police officers can focus on the most high priority calls, and the automated enforcement can cover reminding people with that little lesson of don't do that again. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback. I know a lot of people don't like automated enforcement, but let's talk about it. Thanks.
That clip was courtesy of Sean Shapiro's voiceover cop YouTube channel. Please subscribe and like. And that footage was also courtesy of Global News. So again, check out Sean's YouTube channel, voiceover cop, and also make sure you follow him on social media. And I have another announcement to make too before we wrap up this show. The next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by BarryCullen.com, is going to be Tuesday, May 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern with my special guest and a friend of a show, Rick Zamperin, the new play-by-play voice of the CFL's Hamilton Tiger Cats on the Tiger Cats audio network with Simone Lawrence this year. And Rick is now also a co-host of the Morning Live show on CHCH News in Hamilton. So Rick's going to come on and talk about becoming the Tiger Cats play-by-play voice for the second time on the Tiger Cats audio network and Y108. And also, he's just joined the CHCH's News' Morning Live show with Anit Ham as well. So Rick is one of the good guys, and I'm excited to have Rick Zamperin on to talk a little bit about the Cats, the CFL, and his new role with CHCH News as well. And before we wrap up our show, guys, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is brought to you by BarryCullenChevrolet.com. Check out a 2025 Equinox LT all-wheel drive midnight edition. You can lease from $218 bi-weekly. That's like $109 weekly at 5.5% interest for 48 months with only $4,200 down payment on an ultra low kilometer lease. More details at BarryCullen.com or drop by the dealership at Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. And make sure you tell them Chris Palme sent you there as well. If you'd like a personalized video message from CDP, aka Chris Palme, you can check me out on Cameo.com. Type in Chris Palme and book your Cameo today. If you like birthday wishes, pep talks, greetings, would like to talk sports with me, my media work, my career change, look me up on Cameo.com/Chris Palme and book your Cameo today. And as we wrap up the show, guys, you can follow me now on Blue Sky Social at Live with CDP19 on Blue Sky Social. If you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website, CambridgeHumaneSociety.org. All the animals that are up for adoptions, their profiles are on CambridgeHumaneSociety.org. And if you're looking to volunteer with the Cambridge District Humane Society, like I do twice a week as a dog walker, go on their website and also click on the volunteer application form right there too. And right now, the Cambridge Humane Society is looking for garbage bags, industrial size garbage bags, whatever you can bring, garbage bags, cat litter, dog treats, cat treats, and pet supplies as well. And if you'd like to purchase one of their 50/50 tickets, you can do it through the Cambridge Humane Society website and click on events as well. They do wonderful work, Michelle Glatley and her staff down there at the Cambridge District Humane Society. And every Wednesday, they do a pet emergency fund for those people who are in Cambridge who are struggling financially with the cost of pet food. So if you're able to donate dog food, pet food down there, that would be a great help. But right now, well. They're looking for cat litter, garbage bags, and bedding down at the Cambridge District Community Society. So if you're able to help out, please contact them through the website or drop by the shelter at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, which is just right across from the Cambridge Centre Mall as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show again is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. And I'm hoping StreamYard will partner up with TikTok as well. My website, you guys, if you'd like to follow me on my website, make sure you subscribe: beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show again is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars, podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans, paid professional plans like I do. And if you're a business that does a lot of webinars or live streaming for your business, StreamYard.com and contact their sales department. I've been with StreamYard for over 4 years, and I give them a big thumbs up as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. And please make sure you hit subscribe and hit the like notification as well. Finally, guys, you can email Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpalme19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to tip the host because you're a fan of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show and my media work that I provide and the content I provide, you can tip me at PayPal, cpalme19@gmail.com. Any tips would be greatly appreciated as well. And finally, guys, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and also I want to say thank you to my 600 YouTube subscribers, and I am almost now at 400,000 views. So if you already haven't subscribed and hit the like notification, check out Chris Palme Live with CDP Sports Talk on YouTube. And my next goal is to get to 700 subscribers and to get my views over 400,000. So thank you everyone for subscribing and watching my media work and content there as well. And yesterday I was at the Toronto Argonauts Day 1 training camp at the University of Guelph Alumni Stadium. And I want to say thank you to Chris Belinovich, manager of media communications with the Toronto Argonauts, for allowing me to do some player interviews with a couple of Argos rookies. You can check out those interviews I did with a couple of the Argos rookies on my YouTube channel as well. And before we wrap up the show, guys, got some NFL news. The world champion, Super Bowl 59 champion, Philadelphia Eagles open up defense of their Super Bowl trophy against their hated rivals, the Dallas Cowboys, on Thursday, September 4th, 8:20 kickoff at the Link on NBC and Peacock Network. So the champions and the Dallas Cowboys battling it out on opening night, where the Eagles will host and hold their second Lombardi Trophy at Lincoln Financial Field against Dak Prescott's and the Dallas Cowboys. So Eagles, Cowboys again, Thursday, September 4th, 8:20, NBC, Peacock Network. Mark that on your calendars, and that should be a great night seeing the Eagles it should be a great night seeing the Eagles put up their second Super Bowl banner and open up the season against their the best rivalry in the National Football League, the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles as well. And before we wrap up this show, guys, we got some other sports news to talk about today as well. And right now we've got the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. We've got some games tonight. Washington at Carolina at 7 p.m. The Canes lead that series 2-1. And then the late game tonight is Vegas against the Oilers, 9:30 game. Oilers lead that series 2-1. Major League Baseball, can the Tigers break their 2-game losing streak? Tonight, the Boston Red Sox come into Comerica Park to take on the Tigers at 6:40. Hopefully, the Tigers will get back on the winning track tonight. And NBA playoffs right now, we've got Boston and the Knicks tonight at 7:30. The Knicks lead that series 2-1. Boston's coming off a big win. And the other late night NBA playoff game, we've got Minnesota and Golden State, and the Timberwolves are up 2-1 and trying to take a command hold of that series 3-1 as well. And that is about it, guys. I want to say thank you to my guest today, Sean Shapiro, the former Toronto Police Services officer and now the host of his popular TikTok show called Ask a Traffic Cop Show. Please follow Sean Shapiro on his social media platforms, including TikTok, YouTube, and I'm hoping to have Sean back on as a guest in the future as well. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live streamed and on my audio platforms, and of course to my major sponsor, Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph, for being a part of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. I hope everybody has a great rest of the afternoon. Enjoy the beautiful weather, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, Tuesday, May 13th, 2 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest, Rick Zamperin, the new play-by-play voice of the Hamilton Tiger Cats and CHCH Morning News co-host with an ant and the with Ann Needham. I just lost my voice there, guys. I apologize. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow at 2:00 with Rick Zamperin. Thanks for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.